Ralin Chai, co-founder of Iotex. His background is PhD in cryptography from University of Waterloo, was a tech lead at Google, and most recently head of crypto R&D at Uber. My name is Larry, head of ecosystem at Iotex. I graduated at MIT and spent 5 years in management consulting before joining Iotex about 4 years ago. And Simone Romano, all the way from Italy, give a hand for Simone, first time in the United States, head of developer relations, and he has a background in industrial IoT. So today we're going to be walking you through, starting with an overview of the Iotex platform. Ralin's going to give a glimpse into our vision for what's called MachineFi, and also explaining some use cases that our ecosystem of builders and dApps are working on. Simone is going to give a end-to-end demonstration of our Pebble Tracker device, which is one of the first, or the first, real-world device that streams data from the real world to dApps. And I'm going to close by sharing our special announcement about the Meta-Pebble product, which is very exciting. It's going to give you another way to stream real-world information to the blockchain. But just to kick things off, Iotex is using blockchain for a very unique reason. We're connecting the real world to Web3 and Metaverse. We're a blockchain and IoT platform that's fueling the future of Web3. These days, it's really important to ask ourselves, right? As the world becomes more digital, as more machines pop up in our professional and personal lives, and 100 billion machines by 2030, generating 80 trillion gigabytes of data, McKinsey estimates the Internet of Things is going to be valued at $12.6 trillion with a T. It's very clear that machines are becoming a world's future workforce, and it really begs the question, who's going to own this workforce? Who's going to command that $12.6 trillion in value? And who's going to own the devices and the data and value that our devices generate? So Iotex is really tackling this problem from day one. We started in 2017 and have always been mission-driven to connect real-world devices and data to real-world dApps. We are a fast, low-fee, and secure platform to power MachineFi, DeFi, and GameFi applications. And we're making real-world machines and data available to Web3 builders. So, here at Ethereum Denver, we're really excited to talk to the developer community. We're just really introducing a brand new design space for what blockchain can do, which I'll go into a little bit later. But here's a very high-level overview of the Iotex platform. So we are an EVM-compatible Layer 1 blockchain, built completely from scratch starting in 2017, and our goal is to enable trusted data from trusted devices for use in trusted applications. At the very base layer is our blockchain, our Layer 1 blockchain. Again, we built it completely from scratch. It's EVM compatible. It uses our in-house roll depose consensus mechanism. It does 5-second blocks with instant finality, very low fee, Solidity smart contracts. But that's not really what differentiates Iotex from the rest of the Layer 1s out there. What really differentiates us is we add custom Layer 2 protocols that are IoT oriented and meant to grab data from devices, give those devices identities so they can own that information, and finally opt in to sharing that information with decentralized applications. So at Layer 2, of course, we have our Ethereum virtual machine. We can power any Solidity dApp. We have what's called Truestream, which is our real-world data oracle. Ralin is going to be going into depth about how Truestream works. It functions very similarly to the graph or other oracle networks, but rather than pulling data from blockchains or from public data sets, we're pulling data directly from machines in a verifiable way and offering that to dApps as inputs. We have a lot of initiatives around decentralized identity. DID is very popular from a person perspective, but we actually started an IEEE standard for decentralized identity for devices with participation from Bosch, Lockheed Martin, Lenovo, Ericsson, Huawei, and many other enterprises. So we're the chairs of the DID for devices standard that we hope to see proliferated throughout the industry in the coming years. And finally, we have a really great cross-chain bridge network. We're cross-chain bridged to Ethereum, Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, Arbitrum, Optimism next probably. And we have a full set of developer toolkits, Web3 compatible. Very importantly, you can port over any Solidity app to Iotex with minimal configuration. And all of this is to power decentralized applications, right? That's the goal of a layer 1 platform. Just like a lot of the other general purpose layer 1s out there, we can power DeFi, we can power GameFi applications. In fact, we have a booming DeFi ecosystem. There's about $400 million in TVL on Iotex right now. And that's before Chainlink is adding their native oracles sometime this quarter to Iotex. We're really excited to welcome more DeFi builders to Iotex. We also have a budding GameFi ecosystem. One of our more popular games is called Star Crazy, and it has about 5,000 active users, and climbing the ranks, I think, a top 40 game in the entire GameFi industry. But really what our bread and butter is this brand new category called MachineFi, right? MachineFi, which Rowland's going to go into depth into, is really about how do we utilize the data, the value, and the resources that all these machines around us. Take a look. So many things are plugged in to electricity, so many HVAC units, so many personal devices on our person, whether they're wearables or phones or laptops. All of this stuff can be either data suppliers to the blockchain or data resources from a computational perspective to the blockchain as well. So this is the Iotex platform in a nutshell. Our ecosystem, as I mentioned, growing. About 200,000 community. We have over 11,000 devices registered to the chain right now, spanning UCAMs and Pebble Trackers, which we'll go into a little bit later. 100 plus countries our community represents, and including staked Iotex, the native token, we're managing about $750 million of assets on chain, proving that Iotex is a very reliable layer 1. There's over 150 plus DApps, partners, tools, services, being built on Iotex. You can find them all at ecosystem.iotex.io. And we're very, very deeply involved in pushing forward the research space. I mentioned we are leading the IEEE standard for what's called Identity of Things. PE2958 is the IEEE standard code name. And we also are the blockchain leads in the Industry IoT Consortium. We're driving several pilot projects with our devices called Pebble Tracker in the medical supply chain space, in the automotive space. In the automotive space, we're also active members of MOBI, driving some pilots both for stationary vehicles and for moving vehicles. And finally, we do a lot of stuff with confidential computing, which is the concept of using secure hardware to, it's kind of like ZK Snarks, but the hardware version, if you want to call it that. Just a glimpse of our ecosystem. I'm not going to go too deep in this, but really encourage everyone to check out ecosystem.iotex.io to see all the cool builders that are building on Iotex today. These are our two devices that are fully functioning products. UCAM is our first device we've ever built, and thinking back on it, we were crazy to take on that endeavor back in 2019. We won the CES Innovation Award in 2020 for UCAM. And it's basically a security camera that uses decentralized identity to ensure you are the only one that owns the videos from that camera. Similar to your keys, your funds, with your Bitcoin or your Ethereum wallet or your Iotex wallet, your keys, your data with UCAM. There's over 10,000, sorry this figure's wrong, 10,000 plus UCAMs in 60 plus countries, and it's available to purchase now on Amazon if you guys want to check it out. Another device that is very near and dear to our hearts is Pebble Tracker. Pebble Tracker is different from UCAM in the sense that it is a data generating device that brings verifiable, real-time data to smart contracts and decentralized applications. Simone is going to give you a full walkthrough of what's called our MachineFi portal, which allows you to register these Pebble Trackers, give them an identity, and have them start to stream information to different DApps. There's a lot of different use cases for Pebble Tracker, but it has a lot of sensors built into it. GPS location, temperature, humidity, air quality, air pressure, motion, vibration, and light. It really provides a 360 view of whatever asset you're trying to track, whether it's a person, a vehicle, a bicycle, a dog, a package, a container. Very versatile and a great prototyping board for all you developers that really want to start trying real-world data and how it fits into decentralized applications. And this is kind of a view of where Iotex is at right now. There's a common theory, I would say, called the application infrastructure lifecycle, right? Infrastructure that's built can enable certain type of applications, and when more applications are on board, they demand more from the infrastructure. So our first big task was to build a blockchain platform that could support the general purpose kind of stuff, right? We have our IOPay wallet, we have our cross-chain bridge, we have our DEXs, we have our GameFi, we have our DeFi, but now we have a brand new set of applications that's demanding more infrastructure. Earlier, mid-2021, we added full Web3 compatibility, meaning you can use MetaMask, Remix, Truffle, all your favorite Ethereum-based tools are available on Iotex just by setting a custom RPC endpoint. And where we're at now, we are at the infrastructure building phase of MachineFi and starting to see the first applications utilizing this infrastructure. Throughout 2022, we have a big vision to add real-world data oracles, complete that decentralized identity for devices efforts, and also add universal hardware like Raspberry Pi, Arduino, ESP32, and other IoT-friendly dev boards. And with that, we're going to pass it over to Rallen, who is going to cover everything about MachineFi. Thank you.
All right, so I think Larry talked about a lot about Iotex. So I want to take a step back, basically to ask the question why, right? So if we look at the blockchain, the essential of a blockchain is basically like a Turing complete and self-enforceable, like a rule engine. For now, it's actually driving lots of TVL, lots of transactions within the crypto Web3 space for sure. But like the long-term vision is always, this thing can always drive the real-world economy, which is 100 times bigger than the entire Web3, right? So that's why we're tackling this issue here, like how we can do this. So in order to have those like the rule engine to drive the entire real-world economy, so you will have to have some sort of like an intermediate in the middle. And we do think machine, as a very loyal friend of human being, are the future workforce. So they are the guys who sit in the middle between the Web3 world as well as the real world, right? So if you look at like numbers, which is from, I think it's from McKinsey, it says like there will be 100 billion machines in 2030, producing 30 trillions of like economic growth values for the human being and replacing 30% of human jobs. So that's why we do think the machine networks are actually like the missing piece between the Web3 world as well as the real world. So that's where we get started. Okay, so let's say like what machine networks can do once we have this like a missing network in place. So one thing you can think of is you can mirror like the real world into Web3. For example, if you can walk like 10,000 steps a day or like maybe running 3 miles a day, maybe your avatar in the game space becomes stronger, right, or looks better. Or another very simple example is if you are complained by sitting in the traffic during the rush hours, maybe you should buy some sort of traffic index to hedge your kind of uncomfortableness in terms of sitting in the traffic. So those are the very good examples, like those real world events or data or like a telemetrics can actually be mirrored into Web3 and have some very meaningful products. And another way to look around is exactly the opposite, right? How can we program the real world from Web3? So basically means you can have a token to incentivize people to do certain stuff or machine to do certain stuff from the Web3 space. For example, you can incentivize people coming to this event space by giving them each of them like a 1 Ethereum, right? So I think lots of people will come here. So that's like a way you program the real world. Or maybe you can promote even like a Trump campaign, by incentivize people just going there. Just an example. And another very interesting one is also, a community-owned public utility, because for now, everybody uses like iPhone or other cell phone, right? So you use like a connectivity, which is provided by AT&T and other telecom companies. But it's not always the same once we have like a helium-like type of machine networks up there and running. So you can have some sort of community-owned public utility, such as scooter mobility, storage, vending machines, autonomous cars, and so on. So this is called public-owned utility. And of course, you can turn your individual-owned digital assets into something very meaningful. I have examples here. Yeah, so that's why we coined the term MachineFi. So basically, it's a methodology to jumpstart the machine networks in a very decentralized way, right? So you think about it. In this world, there are very few large-scale machine networks actually exist. Why? Because they are very expensive to jumpstart, right? Who puts the money up front to buy all the machines, and who handles all the deployment of those machines? That usually doesn't work, or maybe just work for Amazon or Google or AT&T, but not for everybody. So that's why we call the term MachineFi. It's basically like a methodology trying to incentivize the deployment of machines, the financialization of the utility or data. I think the most interesting one is data coming out from the machine, and also to enable this self-evolving governance practice for the machines, right? In the future, like some machines, like for example, you have a DAO of cars, right? Autonomous cars. They can just picking up the people, like deliver people autonomously without human intervene, and you're making like a passive income because you put maybe your Tesla into this stuff. Those are the things like examples for the machine networks. Yeah, so basically trying to reiterate what Larry just mentioned about is Iotex. So we're kind of sitting on the verge between the Web3 and the real world by driving those machine networks to do the stuff. On one side, we're kind of like a EVM compatible layer 1 built from scratch. We started in 2017. It's already like a 4.5 years actually. And on the other side, we have this layer 2 kind of computational oracle. It's called Truestream, which we're going to launch this year. That has a compatibility to talk with different devices and machines, no matter it's a smart ring as small as this or like autonomous cars as big as that. I think that's kind of like a goal we are trying to get. Having the Truestream, trying to talk with the machines, understand what they have done in order to give token or NFT or something away to the machines, to the owners. That's about Iotex. Going a little bit technical here is how this thing happens, so like a Truestream, right? This sounds like a magic. How this thing can talk with a machine, right? Just proof this is true, not a lie. So this is like at a very high level how Truestream works. So basically you have like a devices, no matter it's a car or Pebble Tracker or whatever, like a microphone for example, which will give their like a real world data or some sort of telemetrics to Truestream, which is like a decentralized kind of cluster of nodes, basically taking all the data and caching there for maybe a certain period of time, 30 days for example. And now the app will give a predicate to the Truestream. For example, return me like the addresses that has been in Denver in the past 30 days. So this is an example of predicate. So this predicate will be given to the Truestream, and Truestream will generate a proof. So this proof could be the ZKP, like a ZK snark type of proof, could be some like a very simple proof, like a Merkle tree. That go into the Truestream's contract. Yeah. Then the D app contract will call this Truestream contract to say, oh, is this like the message sender or like a MetaMask address is qualified for like an airdrop, for example, or is qualified for IDO, right? So those things will be answered by the Truestream contract. So we designed it this way, basically to make it very composable with DeFi projects, with DAO projects and game projects. I will show you a few examples, I promise. But this is at a very high level how the Truestream thing works. Yeah, it's a very cool piece of technology. Okay, let me start with some really cool use cases. I think not everybody here is techie, right? So let me talk about the first one, is drive to earn. So we actually have a partnership with a device company, which is in Denmark. So they have this car dongle. So basically they plug into a car, collecting all the information coming out from the car, like a velocity, Geo Location, plus other stuffs. I think their like a pain point is like they're a hardware company. It's very hard to scale up, and they have a very tight profit margin. Iotex step in. We say, okay, you guys should do an integration with Iotex by having our SDK into your small gadget, right? Okay, let's do it. And then it's done. It's very simple. On the other side, we put actually two ecosystem teams come here, use their device to do the drive to earn type of projects. So there are two ongoing projects. One is here in US, and another one is in Asia. But the idea is the same. Basically, you incentivize people to drive from A to B, of course, having this car dongle, plug into your car to actually earn the token, right? At the same time, of course, this driver giving the data back to the platform, which can be gamified, which can be monetized. So that's why this token also have value. And we can imagine once like the token price goes up, like there will be more people gets involved in this driving behavior, and you're actually creating like a map in a way, like Google Map in a decentralized way, right? So this is a very interesting one use case. That's our like ecosystem project called MotoDB. And second one is called Health Blocks. So this one sounds like sounds of lots of fun. For now, a lot of people has been staying at home for the past 2 years because of COVID-19, right? But we should incentivize people to do more workout, do more outdoor activities instead. So that's why this like a Europe company, like a Health Blocks, actually steps in and said, okay, so we're going to do like a run to earn type of D app on top of Iotex. So that's why they use this Pebble Tracker and to track people's movement, in the outdoor space and give them token, to incentivize them have a very healthy lifestyle. So this project is called Health Blocks. A third one, I think that's the most interesting one to me. How many of you know this project called CityDAO? Show me your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You don't count. Or like less than 10 people know CityDAO, right? So CityDAO is actually a DAO project that Vitalik has talked about a lot these days. So this is like a very crazy crowd of people. So they purchase a land in Wyoming and trying to DAO the land, in a way, basically to tokenize each piece of land, and give it to other people, and even to build a city on top of this land. So this is a CityDAO project. So we have some sort of like partnership with the CityDAO. Actually, we send our Pebble Tracker to the DAO and to the CityDAO people, and they actually install this one on their parcel 0 yesterday. So this is like a fantastic. Basically, they can having this technology, so they can prove to the blockchain, to the smart contract, this piece of land is real, right? It has all the physical, like environmental factors it should have, like a temperature, humidity, like a Geo Location, as well as other many datas. So this basically proves to people, okay, so this is like a real land. If you want to buy this one, okay, pay me like maybe CityDAO tokens. That's another like a proof of residence type of project that's kind of grew on top of Iotex. Yeah, game. I'm sure like game. Everybody is kind of engaged with game, right? So I like games too. So we kind of see like two very interesting like games kind of sprouting on top of Iotex. One is like a Pokemon Go type of game. It's called Iotex Monster Go. If you look at like the cartoons they have, it looks kind of fun and entertaining. So that's why like they're going to launch the product in about like a few months. Very looking forward to that. Star Crazy is an NFT card game. So what they have is having lots of people, lots of players around the globe. And they use the geo data, of course, tied to the Iotex entire stack, trying to assign people into different planet in the metaverse, right? So for example, maybe all the people has incoming to Denver will be assigned to Mars, like forming a community to do some stuff. So that's what they're doing. So Star Crazy is also a very interesting Iotex ecosystem project. And an even crazier one is real estate. So we do have an ecosystem project called Sumotex. So they want to do this fractional ownership in terms of NFT for like a house, for a real estate, or like a property. Of course, they use Iotex technology to prove like there is a real house actually sitting somewhere around Denver and maybe sitting somewhere around San Francisco, right? And they will just tokenize this one into different NFTs and try to sell the NFT. And you can always stake the NFT to earn some passive incomes because you may like rent out the house or like the house is, making some profit by itself. So that's another interesting one. Taking a step back, right? So look at the vision, our vision, like the MachineFi vision from like a very high level. So that's exactly what we want to do. So Iotex, as I said, we're sitting in between the metaverse Web3 world as well as the physical world. So think about it. So you can have a wearable, which is a device, no matter it's Fitbit or like a smart ring or whatever crazy wearable devices, you can always connect this one to the Iotex platform, and there might be a token team actually, weighing from here. So they say, oh, I'm going to issue a token called WEAR, and I will use this WEAR token to incentivize people drive to earn, walk to earn, live to earn. It's like a UBI, right? Like a live to earn. So, or maybe turning your personal achievement into an NFT. For example, I'm presenting here. That's like a personal achievement. Can I turn this into an NFT and try to sell this one on OpenSea? Yes, that's possible on Iotex. and also maybe incentivize people to do certain stuff, build a community around it, right? That's a powerful concept of MachineFi. The same applies to the autonomous cars, which I kind of touched on previously. So you can have a car token, and you can basically have a DAO, try to manage all the cars here within the DAO, and you can rent out your cars to a different person or for a different task, and to earn the passive income, and you have like the real-time profit sharing. The same thing applies to the Raspberry Pi, applies to the 3D printers, and so on to the solar panels, scooters, smart homes, and other things, right? So that's really our long-term vision is. And as Larry mentioned about, Iotex ecosystem is growing like a crazy. If you look at our on-chain transactions in the past 6 to 12 months, it's basically like a 25% growth month over month. So we have been doing really good. And we're also going to launch our a $100 million developer grant program actually next month. So yeah, so if you have any interest in coming here to build on top of Iotex, that's super welcome. Talk with us, right? So we are like the black hoodie, basically floating around. We have 5, 6 of us here. If you have any interest, talk with me, talk with Simon, Larry, Dan. Dan's here, and Marcos, I think he's sitting on the back. So we're always here to help. Yeah, with this, I'm going to hand over to Simon.
So you've heard something about a lot of words about devices and Truestream, layer 2, layer 1 stuff. So I will start with giving you a very high-level view of how actually an IoT plus blockchain architecture would look like. Okay, so there are mostly 2 ways you can connect an IoT device to a blockchain. One obvious way is you connect the device firmware directly to the blockchain. So you implement a blockchain client inside the firmware of the device that can go or cannot go through a gateway depending on how complex the device is, and then the client will basically broadcast transactions to the blockchain directly, so interacting device to smart contract directly. And this type of architecture is very suited for, say, machine-to-machine type of communication, or trusted logic, or any type of IoT use case that is more like real time, okay? But probably the most interesting type of use cases in the IoT space are those where we have huge amounts of IoT data, and in these use cases you need historical data that must be stored somewhere and then processed and then used for any sort of IoT application that you want. In these cases, the best architecture actually expects kind of a layer 2 network. That's where the Truestream you have been hearing about comes into play. So it's a layer 2 decentralized network that is made to, in a way that it will make onboarding IoT data from devices into smart contracts many, many times easier than it would be without it. So in this architecture, the device or the device gateway is sending the data using popular IoT protocols, like for example MQTT, if you're familiar with IoT. And so it's very easy for existing devices to get connected to this network. And on the other side, this network acts like an IoT oracle that makes it super easy for DApps or smart contracts to query this IoT data, pull it into the smart contract, and build a new type of blockchain applications, which, by the way, we call MachineFi, so the finance of machines. Think of all these DeFi applications that exist today that are built on top of real-world asset prices, and then replace the asset price with any real-world data that is verifiable and trusted, and then you can turn all these DeFi applications into MachineFi applications, okay? Building any type of IoT logic or market or whatever on top of trusted IoT data. So I will get straight to the point here, a little bit of software. I will not go too much into details. I want to have you take a quick look at how this data looks like when you query this layer 2 network. So I will actually do it live. Yeah. So here, this is the endpoint of our Truestream network, which is a GraphQL endpoint, API endpoint. And I'm just making a very simple query where I'm asking the layer 2 network to provide me, let's say, the latest 10 data points that come from the device with this specific IMEI. Okay, this is a device with a cellular modem, so there is an IMEI. It's sending data to the layer 2 network. So I'm querying this layer 2 network, and I'm asking for the latest 10 data points sent from this device with this IMEI, and those data points where there is a valid GPS latitude and longitude value. Okay, and so I'm asking for the actual latitude and longitude. Okay, so I play and I get here 10 data points with latitude and longitude from the layer 2 network. Okay, so this device which is sending this data is actually this one. This one, it's the Pebble Tracker you have been listing right before, and actually you can query a lot more data from this device because it's an asset tracker that I wish I could copy paste here. So, yeah. Okay. I want you to take a look at all the data that is sent from this device, and it's sent to the layer 2 network. And this is how the actual message from this device looks like, okay? So what's interesting about this is that, of course, any device will have its own data, but one additional field that I can query from this data is the signature, okay? So this is what makes the difference here. Okay. So for every data message, there is a signature attached. Where this signature comes from? So the Pebble Tracker device is a special type of device. So this is the result of our research into creating like a flow of secure, verifiable, trusted IoT data that is verifiable from the source, so from the device. This device is basically utilizing a TEE, a Trusted Execution Environment. That's a type of hardware technology that is also found today into hardware wallets, for example, but also into your smartphones. It's used to store your, for example, Face ID data or fingerprint data. And we are applying this technology to the whole IoT space as one possible solution to get verifiable data from the source to the smart contract. And so basically this device, when it gets manufactured, this secure element will generate a private key and a public key in a secure way, so it cannot be leaked in any way, not even if you unsolder the chip from the board, just to make it more clear, okay? And so the public key during the manufacturing process is like stored on layer 1 on the blockchain as a decentralized identity for every single device. And then during device operation, the device will sign every single data point that it's streaming to the layer 2, and we saw the signature before, okay? So that the layer 2 network can actually, from that signature, can check the decentralized identity on layer 1 and make sure that the data is coming exactly from that device. So to say, not from, for example, a simulated software that's sending that data. So it's an actual registered device on chain. And of course, that the data has not been tampered with because we have the signature, and if we can recover the actual correct decentralized identity, then it's also the data is tamper-proof. So at that point, the layer 2 network is just storing and indexing this data and making it available to smart contracts to query the data that they need. Or if you want, also from your front end, you can just query this data, do any processing that you want, and if it's the case, you can send any relevant data, if you want, together with the signature, directly to the smart contract for layer 1, let's say double verification of the data. So what you can actually build. So this night I've been working a little bit very quickly on building a simple application. Let me find you. I won't go too much into the code here. Just basically, I'm just redoing the same query that I just did before using JavaScript. So I'm collecting all the latitude and longitude of data points from this device that I've been carrying from Italy to here, and just returning this data to the front end here, okay? And so this is just a simple map, okay? It's not smart contract, not the apps, nothing too fancy. Just, I don't know if you see it on the screen, I made the actual markers here, like more transparent if they are very far in the past, and less transparent if they are more close to this moment. So this is the data point when I start from Milan. I also cleaned the data point a little bit to just highlight the places where I've been without tracking every single step, okay? So there are just the most relevant data points here. Here when I landed 6 days ago in New York, and then finally I got into the Denver airport, got an Uber, and went finally to my hotel in Denver, and here are some locations that I visited, okay? So this stuff here, even if it's just a simple map, okay, querying the data from the layer 2, just to make it more clear, we are here in the DApp backend, querying the data from the layer 2, and then my application may want to do whatever it's built for, and maybe send the relevant data points to the smart contract to trigger whatever the application is supposed to trigger, okay? But even if this is just a map, what makes this different from a simple map is that these data points are actually proving that I've been in that specific point at a specific time, okay? And here I'm only considering the GPS location, right? Because it's the more like easy to understand and useful, but this device is also streaming temperature, climate, motion, gyroscope, ambient light, and so on. So it's kind of proof of concept for developers that want to start working on some sort of application, and we provide a certain number of sensors, general purpose sensors. So you can very easily build applications like sending airdrops to people that, for example, have been in specific places at specific times, or gamify this stuff like building kind of Pokemon Go type of games where you, for example, you mint NFTs that are hidden somewhere in the world, and people that go there and find them, they mint it, or you can mint NFTs based on users, I don't know, interactions or behavior, okay? Another thing, you could build, for example, a platform where restaurants or hotels could set up airdrops to their customers. They visit their hotels, or in specific days or events, if they attend, then they will get some sort of rewards or NFTs or whatever, okay? Whatever you can imagine. So I want also to quickly get into how you actually use this device as a final user, okay? When you get this device in your hands, you are supposed to assign this device to yourself, kind of become the owner in the network of this device, okay? And you can own multiple devices with one single account. So we built what we call the MachineFi portal that you can access at portal.machinefi.com. I've already registered my Pebble Tracker into this device, and I have an account here where I can monitor all the transactions that belong to my devices, as well as I can see the list of the devices that I own. I can add more devices here. I won't go too much into the details, but the process is straightforward. You just go through a series of steps here, and then you add the device details to uniquely identify the device. You press the button here to send kind of the cryptographic proof that the device is in your hands, and then eventually it gets assigned to your account as the owner. And eventually the portal also gives some high-level overview of the data that's been sent from your devices. So for example, this one, okay? I get my last location, I get some charts here, and the list of the data points that are being sent, and so on. Finally, here we go into the hub store here, we go into the realm of MachineFi here, where basically if you are a device owner, you can find the list of the apps that make use of these IoT data and join the ones that you want to contribute your data to and maybe get rewards or joining the gaming part or whatever the application you are joining is. Or if you are the developer, you might definitely be interested in start building your MachineFi applications and get them listed on this portal for people to join and contribute their data to your application. Okay. I want to quickly say a few words about this device and another device that we also have somehow. Well, first I want to highlight that Iotex is not a device manufacturer. Okay, we don't build device. We build proof of concepts. We lead by examples. We show how it's actually possible today to use blockchain with IoT in a reliable and secure way, and allowing people to build decentralized tokenomics on top of IoT data. We have already been talking about Pebble Tracker a lot. Okay, the Pebble Tracker enriches blockchain with secure data and allows the creation of MachineFi apps thanks to this verifiable data. On the other side, UCAM is a security camera built by a leading security camera manufacturer from Taiwan, I believe, which is called Tempis. And anybody can buy this camera on Amazon. Okay, it's been, I think, thousands of these cameras. I think over 12,000 of cameras have been sold till now. And so they are joining our network as decentralized identities as well. And this camera utilizes blockchain on the other direction. It utilizes blockchain to be more secure and more private. So there is a blockchain account that is used to initialize this camera. So there is not email or password or usually weak password or even default passwords that you get into usual IoT devices. In this case, there is a blockchain account as the device account. And it's also used to actually encrypt the data and share the video streaming with other people or revoke the sharing from the people you have shared with. Everything with a point-to-point 100% privacy of the video. And behind this privacy concept also relies the actually ownership concept. So you are actually owning the video that you are creating with your camera because it's encrypted with the private key of the blockchain account and it's in your hands. So nobody else can can of course visualize, but of course cannot make use of that video other than yourself that can decide who you want to share it with. So today it's with maybe your family, but the same concept can be applied to share it with any other type of entity for whatever type of application. So the concept is you are the owner of the private key, you are the owner of the data generated by this device. So yeah, some of you are already thinking for sure what other devices can be connected to this network. So this network is basically, this layer 2 network is basically an IoT oracle. It must provide verifiable data. Okay, so one way is to have the verifiability at the hardware level, like we proved with Pebble Tracker. Not all devices are secure, so some could require to be redesigned or designed on purpose. But other devices can also be connected to this network, and we are working on extending our architecture, making it more like decentralized and possibly allowing verifiability at the layer 2 level instead than at the hardware level, where some sort of consensus, for example, can allow the data, the IoT data, to be verifiable, trusted, and so be sent into smart contracts in a trusted way. Okay. Yeah, by the way, I want to also quickly mention that we also provide an SDK for Arduino and other embedded platforms that can be used already to interact with smart contracts directly. Okay, so not through the layer 2 network directly. And we are going to release also the SDK to interact with the layer 2 Truestream network very easily from any device. Last word is about holograms. So we also have a few proposals also on the hardware side, where, for example, this company here is basically creating an open source design for an Arduino-based board. Actually, it's an ESP32 board that also integrates a secure element, and that will provide this design as an open source design for everybody to get started on the manufacturing side, building secure devices like Pebble Tracker that can stream data securely to Iotex smart contracts, as well as they will provide some examples on the firmware side. I guess I will end up here. If you are interested in grants, in holograms, in the holograms community program, please reach out to me later. And I'm passing the microphone to Larry again, so that he will announce something new and tell you something about what we are doing at the research level. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Simone. For everyone that wants to check it out, we have both a encased Pebble Tracker, which you can buy on Crowd Supply right now. There's about 1,000 of these out in the wild, and there are 400 being shipped as we speak. So a really cool group of hardware developers and users using these devices. And for the hardware geeks out there that want to see what's on the inside, we have the bare bones version with the plastic enclosure. So, I mean, it's kind of like a watch. You know, you can look at all the circuit boards and just stare at it for a long time. So I encourage everyone to check these out. Maybe I'll throw them over on the side there once we're done there. But yeah, give it up for Simone and that awesome demo. You know, I think with this IoT and blockchain stuff, is very much seeing is believing, right? Everyone's been talking about blockchain and IoT for so long, and just like DeFi and GameFi needed a lot of primitives to be built before all of this could be possible, blockchain and IoT is definitely in that stage right now. And I think Iotex, not only are we producing these devices along with chip manufacturers and device manufacturers, but we're building the tooling, the suite of software with the MachineFi portal that really allows people to utilize this data in a simple way. You know, there's a lot of complementary projects, like I would associate Truestream to the graph, right? Rather than pulling data from blockchains and indexing it, just like ETH gas price, you're pulling data from real world devices. Maybe you're going to be indexing weather data or location data and ingesting that into your dApps in a simple way. You know, Pebble Tracker is definitely a first of its kind device, but you know, it's being used in a lot of supply chain pilots for remote asset tracking. People like to carry them around and start to track their location, just as Simone shared his journey from Italy to New York to Denver. But it's not universal, right? Not everyone has a Pebble Tracker. And our big next adventure for Iotex is using more universal hardware and universal devices, both on the developer side and on the user side. So Raspberry Pi, Arduino, ESP32, very big for developers, but what's a device that every single person in this room, and probably, you know, the mobile phone, right? So mobile phone is our next foray into the IoT space, and we're excited to unveil what's called the Meta-Pebble. Meta-Pebble applies the concept of using an NFT for gated access and allowing you to write data from your mobile device to the blockchain. It's a very unique way to fuel a lot of different incentives. And you know, everyone here at the event today, go talk to an Iotex team member. You guys are going to be the first owners of this Meta-Pebble NFT. So I'm going to take the rest of this session to really explain why this is important and what you're going to be doing with it in the future. Let's just start with some basics, right? If I can. Mobile devices today. As I mentioned, everyone has a device out there. Pebble Tracker is very multifunctional. It does GPS location, temperature, humidity, air quality, motion, vibration, and light. That's this device right here. You know, honestly, we built this more for a supply chain, asset tracking, remote asset monitoring use case. But your phone today has even more sensors, not in the climate and air quality sector, but it collects insights about you as well as insights about the real world, right? Everything here in the world is sensor-based these days. The concept of IoT is connecting real-world phenomena that are collected by sensors and making use of that in applications, right? So what are types of sensors that you find on mobile devices today? The camera that does your Face ID is one example. It can detect your identity, it can detect your mood. The microphone is also a sound sensor. It can collect your voice. It can hear ambient sounds around you. The GPS that's built into your mobile device, location, experiences. Even the camera can detect different objects and sounds, right? Your mobile phone also has a barometer, which measures air pressure, which can detect elevation, 3-axis gyroscope for rotation, orientation, accelerometer for speed, proximity sensor for distance, light sensor for lumens and lux, magnetometer for magnetism, and even LiDAR for distance and range to detect objects that are close to you or not, right? And this is just this top section of the iPhone right here. It has an infrared camera, flood illuminator, all this data that your mobile device is carrying. It's on you all the time. The mobile device is tracking a lot of information about you, and what better way to make use of that information than owning it and opting into sharing it to collect different types of incentives in an opt-in fashion, of course. The other thing that these devices are serving as these days are gateways to other IoT devices, which are more called edge IoT devices, right? Mobile phones act as gateways for connected devices, such as all the wearables, all the smart home devices that are connecting to your smartphone to aggregate data and insights that eventually can fuel dApps via open incentives and tokenomics. Ralan earlier in his presentation mentioned a couple of great partners of ours that are building on Iotex. One of them is called Health Blocks. They are actually going to start their beta test very soon, and they're using data from your Apple Watch to incentivize people to take 10,000 steps or burn 100 active calories in exchange for tokens that can be reused for telehealth calls, for discounts on healthcare products in the future. It's really about how do you close that loop around real-world incentives and what these incentives and tokenomics can be used for. So now that we understand that, right, what we basically understand from these two slides is mobile phones, in addition to all the other IoT devices, are really the gold mines for data. The popular saying, data is the new gold. Well, if that's true, then your IoT devices are the gold mines, right? And making sure those devices are trustworthy, secure, and owned by users is really the mission of what Iotex is all about. But we have this concept at Iotex that we like to call proof of anything. A lot of people know proof of work, proof of stake. They associate these as consensus mechanisms, which they are, but they are also actually literal proofs that people provide to the blockchain, right? If you prove that you've done the cryptographic work to solve the Bitcoin hash, then you can become a validator and earn Bitcoin rewards. If you prove that you deposited 32 ETH, then you prove your stake and you gain access to become a validator on Ethereum. What if you could prove things about things you've done in the real world in order to get different types of benefits or incentives? If you prove that you're at this event, right? Everyone's familiar with proof of attendance protocol, which if you join a Discord chat, you get an NFT that says you were there. Well, in the future, this time next year, ETH Denver, you're going to be able to register your GPS location and get an NFT that says you were here, not because you purchased it from someone else or because you joined some digital whitelist, but because you were actually physically present. This concept of proof of anything can be extended to almost all different industries. Renewable energy, prove to me that you're carbon neutral and to get some type of incentive from a smart contract. Prove to me that you've ran 5 miles. Prove to me that you've chosen more sustainable transportation instead of driving your car to work every day to get some type of kickback or some type of incentive. Anything about the world can be proven with a device that's hooked up to Iotex in the future. The tech stack that enables this is not just one and done plug and play. It's a very big tech stack that Iotex is building for the past 4 years, right? To enable this, you need open and secure hardware, which is exactly what Pebble Tracker represents. You need a real-world data oracle that can offer resources to resource-constrained devices and create a translation mechanism between the language that IoT devices speak and the language that dApps speak. and that's Truestream, which Rowland explained during his presentation. You need to give your devices an identity that are interoperable and understood by a blockchain. And that's part of the IEEE standard that we mentioned that we're running for decentralized identity for devices. And finally, you need ability for dApps and smart contracts to ingest this information, which is also part of Truestream, and it really covers all the different dApps that are being built on Iotex now. One really big type of use case is proof of presence, right? There's a lot of ways to prove your presence. GPS location is one of them. Scanning an NFC tag is another. Facial recognition from a camera is another. There's a lot of ways to prove your presence, but we are very big on the geolocation side of things, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Another kind of mental exercise to really understand where Web3 is going from here, right? In the past, things like proof of stake and DeFi taught us that we can deposit our assets, or we could deposit or stake our assets to earn yield or staking rewards, right? This is the most simple type of incentive. Even at the blockchain layer 1 level, node operators. Anyone that's operating nodes are not doing it for fun. They're not doing it for shits and giggles on the weekend. They're trying to earn rewards for doing it, right? The protocol is incentivizing node operators to run servers and run the protocol to maintain the blockchain, and they're getting rewards for doing it, right? DeFi, you're staking your assets in a pool, not because you want to give out ownership of your assets, but because you earn yield, right? So this is really, blockchain at every layer, from the layer 1 infrastructure layer to the DApp layer. It's all about incentives. There's always someone or some protocol trying to incentivize someone else to do something that they wouldn't necessarily just do on their own accord, right? The past, proof of stake and DeFi has taught us that. Where we're at now with this GameFi and play to earn phenomenon is very much the same, right? People are being incentivized to sit there and click buttons on their phone. Yes, it's fun, but there's more fun games you could play. But doing things in the digital world to earn digital assets or digital reputation was a step change in what we could do with blockchain. And gamifying that, I think, was the thing that brought it to life, right? That's where we are today. A lot of people doing things in the digital world to earn digital assets. What Iotex and MachineFi is all about is doing things in the real world to earn digital assets or digital reputation. And this is really the next big step change, right? Like I mentioned earlier, it's really opening up a brand new design space for what dApps can do and what type of incentive models can be created. There's so many different verticals that this applies to. Just like blockchain is horizontal that stretches across many different industries, IoT and the billions and billions of devices out there is also a huge horizontal. It applies to almost everything, right? I think, take some time today after this and just observe every time you interact with a device, whether it's a vehicle or a set of lights or your wearable device or anything, any internet connected device. I think you'll be shocked how many times you interact with machines that can prove something that you've done in the real world, right? And on-chain identity and what you've done, you don't have to share all of that, but if you want to opt in to share it to receive an incentive or receive a reward, then it can be built into a dApp, and there's going to be win-win situations that are everywhere out there, right? So back to Meta-Pebble, right? Why is this important? Because going back to the fact that your machine, your mobile device, not only captures a lot of insights about you and about the environments that you're in, they also serve as gateways to your different IoT devices. Meta-Pebble is going to be the real way to turn your phone into a mobile miner or a mobile gateway that can channel these insights to the blockchain. Just like Pebble Tracker, it integrates with our Truestream protocol and our MachineFi portal. The Meta-Pebble NFT that's available to everyone here, make sure to find Dan, or we have a QR code at the end that you can scan. It's going to give you access to the Meta-Pebble NFT. You're going to install that you're going to drop it into the Meta-Pebble app, and after that, the phone that the app is installed on is going to start to be able to funnel starting GPS data first, and eventually trying to tackle more and more of these types of insights about you and insights about your environment. This is a very big leap in mobile to blockchain kind of connection. There are challenges, right? Pebble Tracker itself has a secure element built into it that's signing and verifying and authenticating all of the data that's captured by the device. For now, Apple and Android, the secure elements are closed source. So there's a lot of other software ways to do the verification kind of in layers, right? Security in depth. Over time, the goal is to make your mobile device look very, very similar to a Pebble Tracker in the sense that the secure element that protects your Face ID, the secure element that protects your passwords, the isolated and very trustworthy part of your phone is being used to protect and sign all of this data. For now, we have a suite of software packages that's really helping to authenticate and verify this data. So you can attach different types of incentives to these kind of applications, right? So Meta-Pebble NFT to the Meta-Pebble app to the MachineFi portal is going to basically connect your phone to all the DApps out there that are incentivizing actions in the real world. So this is the Meta-Pebble NFT. Really cool design, if you ask me. It's kind of an access card, right? It's going to be available for free for everyone here. It's going to be sold for about $50 in the future, just to prevent spam, and of course given to the Iotex community for achieving certain milestones and holding other past NFTs. So for everyone watching the live stream, don't worry, we didn't forget about you, but we want to give something special to the ETH Denver crowd here. This is a little screenshot of what the Meta-Pebble app will look like. It's really just a way to authenticate that your phone is the one that's going to be delivering data to the MachineFi portal that Simone had outlined very, very clearly in his demonstration. So again, it's all NFT based, right? NFTs are unique digital assets. So if you have this unique digital asset stored on your unique mobile phone, then that's a very easy way to make sure that the data you're submitting is yours. And this is kind of a screenshot of the overall app design. But all the action, once your Meta-Pebble phone is hooked up to the MachineFi portal, all the access, all the information is going to be on the MachineFi portal. It's going to function very similarly to a Pebble Tracker device. Some exciting use cases for geolocation, right? I mentioned there's a lot of different type of data that we'll be collecting in the future. Everything from your vibrations of your phone that can be used to count steps, to the images that you take, to the environments that you're in. But honestly, I think geolocation is really going to change people's perspective of what Web3 and blockchain can do. Where we go and why we go places is one of the easiest things, I think, to incentivize. And whether it's to show up at this meetup or attend a concert or show up at a pop-up shop that's only one weekend only, or even set up different scavenger hunts that take you towards sustainable areas or green buildings. We talked to a lot of different people that are really interested in the scavenger hunt space. I think that's a really cool concept of what geolocation and incentivizing people to see and experience things in the real world, not just click buttons in the digital world. It's going to open up a brand new design space for Iotex and for the Web3 industry. Starting with POP protocol. Proof of presence is a term that Iotex has coined and is really championing, and it's because of our belief in what geolocation can do. Simone and Rowland already mentioned a couple of use cases about getting airdrops based on a geolocation. Say you're a token project, and you really want to incentivize a new community of Filipino or European or even at a micro level, Denver participants to join your DApp. You can airdrop them tokens or airdrop them assets, even credentials, based on their geolocation, which I think is a step change in how airdrops are done today. But the other really cool thing, as the NFT space starts to boom, you can tie certain NFTs to certain geolocations or geofences, where you can claim NFTs only by being there, right? This is a you think about the minting model of NFTs and how hectic and bot related it is, right? I remember back in the day when we used to line up for streetwear, and that seemed like the most fair way to get a product, right? You stand there in line, you prove you were there, instead of paying some bot to game the system. And I think with Geo Location and POP protocol and Meta-Pebble and Pebble and Iotex in general, we can start to create these incentives for people to do certain things in the real world or visit certain places in order to get these NFTs. And I think this is a huge channel to bring Web 2 or traditional companies into Web 3, right? Everyone watched the Super Bowl, everyone's watching sporting events, claiming NFTs based on geofences. You heard it here first. I'm glad you like that one. I like it too. And we're not supposed to mention too much about POP, but it's coming soon. It's coming very, very soon. Lonely Planet is another one that is being built on Iotex right now in a prototype form. Real-world GPS location to fuel geo-mining and incentivize local people to meet up, right? It's kind of similar to POP protocol, but this is an instance where you're not just airdropping or claiming NFTs, right? POP protocol is more something you can build on top of. Lonely Planet is more of a DApp where you can create your own tokenomics, right? The concept of Lonely Planet is for every zone, all these hexagons or zones, every zone that you're a part of, you can mine a token. The more people in your zone, the higher mining rates your zone will have, and the more zones you're a part of, the more tokens you can mine. The premise of Lonely Planet is to make the world less lonely, to encourage you to meet people in your zones. Coming out of COVID, hopefully everyone here is already meeting a lot of people and having fun. But around the world, these are just thought experiments about how we can use real-world data and open incentives to, incentivize people to do things they wouldn't necessarily do on their own accord. That's the premise of Web3, in my opinion. Another really cool one that was built by a project called London Blockchain Labs on top of Iotex called HyperAware. HyperAware uses Iotex DID and Pebble Trackers. It's still a prototype for now, but you're collecting vehicle tolls based on your geolocation, and it's built by a team out of London. For those that have been to London before, there's something called the London Congestion Zone, where if you drive your car in downtown, you have to pay a fee. How they do it is when you enter, they'll take a picture of your license plate. When you leave, they'll take a picture of your license plate, and they'll calculate the delta, and they'll give you some fee in the mail, right? So their concept was, rather than doing this very opaque and time-consuming process, let's use our verifiable GPS location in order to pay these tolls in an automated way from your blockchain wallet, right? And this is a team that has built this HyperAware project. It's the same team that's building Astral Protocol, if you guys know them. Very, very cool stuff. But all these use cases are just one single metric of real-world data, which is where are you, right? There's so many other questions about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, what types of things you consume in the future, right? When we think about a day in the life in the future, everything, I order a lot of Uber Eats, that's going to be automated in the future based on how I slept, right? Or what nutrients I lack. And as the world becomes more automated, having trust and allowing us to use our data to power our more digital lives is going to be super, super, super important. So with that, that's our presentation for today. I want to remind everybody that Meta-Pebble, you can go visit Dan. He's in a bright orange shirt. You can't miss him. You can scan this NFT, scan this QR code that he's going to have over there to get a free Meta-Pebble NFT and get early access to those mining rewards that are going to be available. We're putting a lot of effort into Pebble Tracker and Meta-Pebble, right? But this is just really a start. We're really excited to welcome the ETH Denver community to experience MachineFi in reality. So with that, we have 6 members, what's up Christian, of the Iotex team here. Any builders out there, we're giving grants. We'll take some questions in oh, you're a builder. Go talk to Simone. Simone flew all the way from Italy to talk to builders, so don't leave them hanging, okay? You know, if you want to apply for a grant or you just want to know more about how to build on Iotex, Simone is your guy. Rowland, who is sitting back there, he knows literally everything about Iotex. He's the founder, so go talk to him if you're interested. Dan in the orange shirt, he's our community lead. If you're interested in joining our community, contributing as an ambassador, or doing some other stuff, definitely talk to Dan. Marcos in the beanie back there. If you want to learn more about how to buy a Pebble Tracker or buy a UCam, don't forget you can get a free Meta-Pebble by talking to Dan right here. Definitely go do that. But if you want to learn more about our physical devices, like, you know, these are the same thing, but go talk to Marcos in the back there. I do most of our partnerships and use cases. If you guys are interested in discussing a use case idea or, you know, talking partnerships, come talk to me. Christian's also on the business development team right there. If you want to pitch them some ideas or talk about them, that's also, you know, I'll stand by Christian. We can tackle that together. And anything else, you know, give us a shout at hello@iotex.io. Yeah, with that, follow our social channels. It was really great to have everyone here. And yeah, I think we're just getting started with MachineFi. So really thank everyone for coming. We'll be having, Rowland's going to be giving a keynote tomorrow at 10:40 a.m. in the Temple venue. And we'll be having an invite-only party. That's probably not going to be an invite-only party because there's a million parties. So we're going to be doing with Harmony, Injective, Osmosis, Paraswap, and a few others. So definitely stop by our party tomorrow at 10 p.m. When we'll get drunk and be merry. So thank you guys so much for coming. Really appreciate it.
GM everyone? That's a spirit. Okay, let's talk about it. All right, so basically talking about Iotex. So what we're doing, a little bit background about myself. Definitely like cryptography in Waterloo, ex-Google, ex-Uber, and I actually found Iotex back in 2017 with just like two other co-founders, and now we're a $1 billion project, and we're right on the track to become like a $10 billion project, I hope, this year, right? So step back from Iotex for a second. So blockchain, I think everybody here kind of knows blockchain, right? It's essentially like a Turing complete and self-enforceable rule engine. Basically, you know, without human intervene, it can just decide what to do. So this rule engine, as of today, is driving like this $1 trillion crypto market. You know, DeFi, NFT, a lot of things you're talking about is actually driving by this rule engine. But like the vision we have, I think a lot of you have, is this rule engine can actually drive something in the real world, which is 100 times bigger compared to crypto as of now. So that's where we get started. So, but you know, trying to get over to the real world, you have to have some sort of bridge or, you know, something in the middle. So that's like you can program actually in the Web3 space while like the real consequence actually happens in the real world. Which we do think that's like the very loyal friend of human being, which is machines, right? So machines are the future workforce. So there is a report says by 2030 there will be 100 billion machines around us. I think it's kind of already true. If you look around, you see a lot of computers, cameras, you know, microphones, you know, lights, everything is machine actually are running us. And by 2030, so like these machines will produce like a 30 trillion like values for the economic growth, as well as replace 30% of human jobs. Okay, yes, machines are great, right? And how can this like machines or like the machine networks can help us to bridge the Web 2, Web 3, or crypto and real world? So there are actually like two ways, very intuitively. So one way is you will use machine or machine networks to actually mirror the real world into the metaverse, into the Web3 world. For example, you can have like a, you know, maybe like a fitness tracker. So you're running like 3 miles per day, and your avatar just becomes stronger in the metaverse, right? So that's a stupid example, but that's kind of true. And also you can have something like you cannot think of as of now, like a traffic derivative. For example, if you're like I'm from California, right? So if you're like driving, you know, from your home to the office every day, you're just stuck in the traffic, you know, because like a rush hours or so, you can always buy some traffic derivatives to hedge this kind of uncomfortableness from yourself. So this is how you like mirror the real world to the Web3 space. And on the other end, that's even more interesting. So you can actually program the people's behavior. You can program like the machine's behavior just using tokens. For example, you can have a token and you can incentivize people who's actually driving from A to B or walking from A to B or doing some stupid exercise from 10 to 11 or something. So that's how this like the machine networks can actually bridge the real world with the crypto world, right? So that's why we coined a term which is called MachineFi. It's basically like a Web3 methodology, just try to jumpstart different type of machine networks in this real world in a decentralized way. Basically trying to incentivize the deployment of the machines, the financialization of the utility and data from the machines, and also the self-evolving governance of the machines. Right, so that's why everybody is talking about DeFi, SocialFi, GameFi, and Iotex definitely like a work on MachineFi. Woo! Yeah, then next one is back to Iotex. Basically like we are the fastest growing decentralized network to jumpstart the machine networks down from scratch to connecting the real world to the Web3 world for the people. We started back in 2017 and given the maybe 4.5 years, so we built a lot. We have built this like a layer 1 blockchain down from scratch, which is EVM compatible from 2017 to 2019. Now this chain has been launched, I think, to almost everyone, supported by all the top exchanges in the world, running by 100 more validators, processed like 40 million transactions already. And then, so we start to work on the things actually on top of this chain. We have a bridge connecting us to Ethereum, connecting us to other blockchains as well. And we have wallets, Explorer, SDK, everything. So we kind of seeing like the sprouting of kind of mini ecosystem on Iotex right now, like a DeFi, DAO, game, NFT. Every hot stuff everybody's talking about is actually sprouting on Iotex. But like most importantly is our capability to have this like a layer 2 computational oracle, which we call Truestream, which we will be launching this year, to connecting like the machines to the layer 1 smart contract. Right? For example, I give an example here. So how this Truestream works. You have like a smart ring, right? Or you have some like a car. So this one we're actually talking with Truestream directly, try to get the data, give the telemetrics to the Truestream, which will cache your data for 30 days, 60 days, really up to the user. And then the D app can actually ask Truestream, say, can you please produce a proof, giving me like a list of addresses who has been to ETH Denver in the past 30 days, right? Then Truestream will do some sort of computation on top of the data it has, and then send this kind of proof. So by the way, this proof could be like a ZK snark, this proof could be like a Merkle tree, this proof could be some like a very simple like hash function. So this proof will be sending to the smart contract. Then the Truestream contract will be knowing, what is going on here. Then the DApp contract can actually query the Truestream contract, says, oh, is this address actually in ETH Denver this week? Or is this address actually driving from N to A to B, in the past like a few days? So Truestream contract knows without leaking any like a user information, right? So that's kind of like a principle we have, how we do this MachineFi stuff. So giving you some very interesting use cases, perhaps you cannot find anywhere else on other blockchains, right? I think there are 5 or 6 of them. So the first one is kind of like drive to earn. So there is like a Denmark car dongle company. So they have this car dongle. It's a very regular just car dongle. Iotex, like we step in, we say you guys should have an integration with our technology. So we're turning your car dongle into like a miner, right? Like a mining rig on the car. And they did it, right? Then we have like 2 teams just using their mining rack, use their car dongle actually to do this drive to earn. So you plug this thing into your car, you're driving from A to B or like avoid rush hours, whatever, you earn the tokens, right? As long as the token price goes well, I think more and more people will just join this kind of movement. Then they will eventually create like a Google map, for example. So that's kind of like amazing. And the second one, I kind of like a touch base on is this like a move to earn. For now, we have been cooped in house, in the past 2 years thanks to COVID-19. But I think for now, more and more people are just getting out of the door to do like a more exercise. So there is an interesting project on Iotex. It's called Health Blocks. So they basically use some like open source hardware. It's called Pebble Tracker, GPS tracker, to track your kind of outdoor movement and give you token. For example, if you're running 5 miles every day, maybe you can earn like $10 every day, right? So as simple as that. And then they can use your data, basically trying to create your health profile or something. So that's another very interesting project. If we have investors here, yeah, feel free to outreach to Iotex team. We should talk about, if you want to get some investment into this project. And a third one, I think it's CityDAO. How many people know CityDAO here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, less than 10 people. So CityDAO is a very radical social experiment. I think Vitalik just blogged about this one maybe a month or 2 months ago. So they actually have a DAO and raise like, I don't know, like a 500, maybe 1,000 Ethereum and purchase the land in Wyoming, trying to build like a crypto city over there, right? It's a very radical social experiment. And we are working with this team. Like this is like an awesome team. We are working with them. So what we are doing is trying to put our open source hardware on their land. So their land actually, suddenly has this capability to prove to the blockchain, prove to the DAO. So this is a real land, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, perhaps, somewhere of Wyoming, actually, owned by this address. So this becomes something like possible. We actually just deployed the Pebble Tracker to their first land 2 days ago. So it's such amazing stuff, right? Of course, we have games. As I mentioned about, we have this like entire tech stack. We have some like open source hardware. So there are like gaming teams actually coming to Iotex. So one of them is called the Iotex Monster Go. It's kind of like a kind of treasure hunt Pokemon Go type of game. So you use your phone, go to somewhere to beat against the monsters to win the coins or some sort of rewards, which is pretty cool. I think they're going to launch in Q1. And another one is called Star Crazy. It's an NFT card game. So they can basically tie your addresses to a very specific geolocation. Then basically send you to a very kind of geo-fenced community. It's also something like really cool. You guys should check it out. NFT for real estate. So this is like a crazy team. So they just kick in and says, okay, let's do this for the real estate, right? So we can actually buy a house and divide the house into maybe 10 pieces or 8 pieces, and each piece is actually represented by an NFT. And they're going to sell this NFT to just token holders. So by holding this like 1/8 of the by holding this like an NFT, you are actually holding 1/8 of the house. So this is kind of very cool concept. Also, you're getting like a positive incomes, if possible. And our job here is also like we kind of help them to have the house to prove itself to the blockchain. Okay, I'm alive. I'm a real house in the middle of somewhere. Actually, so here is some environment data. So this house is really well. And also, like we help them to design some sort of incentive mechanism, so people can actually go to the house to do like an endorsement, say, oh, this is a real house, looks really good from outside, to earn some token. So that's kind of like a very good use case as well. So this one is my favorite use case. I think lots of you guys should talk with us. So we have this protocol, like our team is doing. It's called Proof of Presence protocol. So this protocol will be able to know. So this address is tied to a specific geo fence. That means, for example, if you're coming to Denver this week, you can maybe earn some airdrops from Uniswap teams, from Pancake teams, from some NFT artists, right? Or that means if, for example, we're working with Miami Coin, so what they want is basically airdrop some tokens to people who has been staying at Miami, for the past year or past 6 months or so. So with POP protocol, all those things become possible. And there are some also like a crazy teams doing something like, if you have been, to a specific place, your DeFi mining yield farming stuff can just get doubled. This is a way basically to target like a real crypto users for a crypto project. Yeah, so if you guys have any interest into using POP protocol, it's in a preview version right now. So we have a very limited seats. Just come to talk with us. Yeah, so those are the kind of use cases that is happening right now. But down the road, so we are forcing lots of even more interesting use cases, right? So, machines, devices, for example, you have a wearable, you have a car, you have a Raspberry Pi, you have a 3D printer. So those things can be connected to Iotex. And there are some token teams, Web3 teams, they should kick in. For example, they can have like a Raspberry Pi token, this Pi token, right? So this Pi token can actually, driving the community to grow, driving like the onboarding of more Raspberry Pi onto the Iotex platform, and making them to do some job. So it could be as simple as like a keep 3R type of job, or maybe crawling some websites, collecting some information. So this is one example. And the 3D printer is another example. It's sort of called decentralized manufacturing, right? So you can incentivize people to buy like a 3D printers as miners, sitting in their home, printing like those 3D stuffs for people that's nearby. That's another use case. Solar panels, scooters, smart home, satellites. Those are the crazy use cases like my team is working on. Yeah, so talking too much about like a MachineFi, but let's do not forget like a kind of DeFi aspect of Iotex, right? So we definitely have a DeFi ecosystem is growing like day by day on Iotex. From a very bottom layer of the tech stack is like a stable coin. Definitely we have a few. And Oracle, I think like the big ones that actually coming. Lending and DEX, we're doing pretty good. I think all the major ones will come to Iotex, as well as a wallet and aggregator, right? On the very top, we're seeing like an endless yield farming right now. It feels like lots of money is actually flowing into Iotex, as well as lots of fiat gateways on ramp and off ramp. So that is kind of like a DeFi aspects about Iotex. So here, excuse me. So here are some interesting numbers. We see like end of last year, right? So basically like the growth for the on-chain transaction goes like a really great, and on-chain users and assets also growing like in the same pace. So definitely like the ecosystem is kind of blowing up. Yeah, if you want to take a picture, if you want to have like a takeaway for Iotex, I think that's perhaps like a easiest one for you to take a picture. That's the ecosystem we have last year, end of last year. I think given the past month or so, like we have had another maybe 30, 40 kind of more projects launching. All right, so finally, I'm going to give like some perks to the people who has been here with us. So we talk about this open source hardware, Pebble, and we will also have a software version of the Pebble, which is like an info app. So if you want to, get access to this app, feel free to scan the QR code. I'm not sure if this will work, maybe too small, but definitely like we're giving some like kind of invites to people who wants to try out Pebble. So this basically will earn you some monies in your pocket like a miner. Right, so that's it. So that's it about Iotex. If you have any interest, talk with me, talk with like all our teams here. We have this kind of hoodie, black hoodie with the Iotex logo. And that's it. Thanks everyone.